So, as if my outro wasn't autistic enough already, I recently found this ad a couple of years ago, and I figured it kind of suits the videos. So slowly making my progress further and further towards Jason. That's not good. So I hear a lot that direct democracy can't really happen in the Vanguard Party. I've never really been told why. This also ties into the argument that the Vanguard Party or the dictatorship of the proletariat is always going to have power concentrated into a small group of people. This argument usually coming from the anarchists. I have even seen other Leninists or Marxist-Leninists say that the Vanguard Party needs to act for the working class but not under the rule of the working class, as they know what's best for them and the working class doesn't. So today I want to go over my personal views of how I think the Vanguard should function. This video is to explain how I think it should function, not to try and clear up a general accepted view, because there are probably a lot of well-read leftists that would likely disagree with me. So first off, let's talk about the Vanguard Party and the people involved. In a revolution, the Vanguard is meant to be a group of the most class-conscious people that will lead the revolution against the state, or in some cases, hijack an ongoing revolution that doesn't already have a pre-existing aim. The Vanguard is what makes a revolution a communist one, and means that you don't have to have the whole working class in a revolution have read in detail every Marx or Lenin book ever made. Once the state has been abolished, the dictatorship of the proletariat will be established. Now, while it is the Vanguard that organize and establish things, it's important to know that they are not the ones in power. Rather, there will be people that carry out the will of the working class and will always be at their mercy. People often confuse the dictatorship of the proletariat as a hierarchical state, but I don't see it that way at all. Rather, the state and the people in the state are tools without wills of their own. Instead, they only ever have the will of the working class. If it is a hierarchy at all, the working class are above the state. The best way, in my opinion, to have the state act as a tool for the working class is through direct democracy. It's also worth mentioning quickly that the bourgeois that had just been overthrown after this revolution would not be able to participate in this direct democracy at first. Just like today, where the proletariat are oppressed and ultimately do not have a say in how the state is run, when the bourgeois are oppressed, the same will go for them, unless we have a situation similar to this.
Principal Skinner, this is your secretary. There is one last student here to see you.
That's odd. I don't have a secretary. Or an intercom. But send him in.
Ahoy there, Dean. I understand you're taking suggestions from students, eh? Well, me and my fourth form chums think it would be quite corking if you'd sign over your oil well to the local energy concern.
Direct democracy across the whole working class comes with its own problems, though. The two main ones are the education of the working class and the inefficiency of democracy. First, let's cover education. We can see even in representative democracy today that the ignorance of the working class is constantly being exploited to cause them to vote in a certain way while only giving them certain information. Lack of knowledge will always cause democracy to fall apart, and ultimately have a small group of people ruling things, as we have today. Because of this, it should be one of the Vanguard's top priorities. Thanks for watching. To ensure that all the working class has a very clear idea of what the Vanguard is, how it's run, and what the working class's role with the Vanguard is. When people understand that they have a direct say in how it's run, they will become involved in the democratic process. And we can see this from things like the Scottish referendum, where they had a stupid turnout of like 90-something%. Also, having frequent public debates on almost every topic debated on would be an extremely important thing as well. Secondly is the inefficiency of democracy. Democracy is slow, and so when dealing with things that require immediate attention, it's probably best to have certain sections of the state dedicated to dealing with them, for example, natural disaster relief. Of course, though, these sections should never be able to remove democracy from any other part of the state, and should only have power in their very specific field in which they operate. Some people do say that they don't want to have to be required in every little thing on how the state runs, and that would be required in direct democracy. I say if you don't want to, then just don't. Leave the things that you aren't concerned about to the people that it actually affects, and when there is something that you want to be involved in, go and vote for that. That's how it really should be, in my opinion, and I don't see a problem with that if people only vote on the things that actually affect them and that they actually care about. Of course, though, it's important to make the distinction of people knowing whether or not it actually affects them, whether they should be caring about it, because it's not really the same if someone chooses not to vote because they think it's not important when they're being, misguided that it's not. But that comes back to the whole point about education anyway. So now, while I think direct democracy is probably the best way to go, it's not the only option. Representative democracy, similar to what we have today, is also a legitimate method of running a vanguard party. If I'm not mistaken, representative democracy with recall at any time was actually what they used in the Paris Commune, and they had a pretty good thing going until they all died. Personally, though, what puts direct democracy above everything else for me is the fact that you're less likely to have cults of personalities formed, and if the representatives under representative democracy would be carrying out the direct will of the working class anyway, why not cut them out and have the workers directly decide for themselves? Thanks for watching.
Знать увидел вас я в недобрый час. Очень черные, очень пламенные, и манят они страны дальние.